So, from last time, recap, whatever.
Okay. We had made it down to Grandma's. We were talking about Mike and Connie having a little quarrel thing going on. He was trying to force himself on her. And she was sick with what I thought was a yeast infection. So we had gotten her medicine for a yeast infection.
Come to find out she had what?
Come to find out she had chlamydia. No wonder she didn't want it.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, you and I slept in Grandma's house the first night. Try that.
Okay.
Okay, start over again.
Yeah. We had made it down to Grandma's, and down in Vancouver, Washington, and the first night, you, me, and Chris stayed in the house. Mike and Connie have been squabbling, and so we just sent them to bed and told them to be quiet. And the next morning, when Connie got up, she told me that Mike had been trying to force himself on her all night, wouldn't stay in his own bed, and if I remember right, they did end up having sex, but Connie said she really didn't want to, and we found out she was talking to me about this discharge she had. She was still having problems with it burning when she urinated. I thought she had a yeast infection, so Grandma went and got some Monistat 7, and we put her on that.
Yeah. So the weather was the weather, and I made the decision to go on down there. Left the trailer because the idea was to hurry up and get down there.
Yeah.
Camp out, do work, send some money back, basically, and then
once Chris was over his cold, then
come back up, get you,
yeah.
Chris, the trailer, and everything, and then haul you down there.
Yep.
But in the meantime, instead of sitting there living off of your grandparents, then, yeah. It was basically get a trailer court, a trailer space, something like that, to put the little trailer in down there and work and stuff like that. It wasn't very too bad. But anyway. So, I left with
Mike, Connie, and yourself.
Right, from Vancouver. Okay. Well, anyway, did I send any money back?
Yeah.
Alright. Made a few phone calls?
Yeah, I talked to you, I think it was 3 or 4 times. I think it was 3 times before you went to jail, and then once after you went to jail.
Right. Okay.
The 3 times I talked to you before you went to jail, I also talked to Connie. She continued to tell me about the problems she was having with Mike. I brought that up to you, and you said, yeah, that they were squabbling and fighting back and forth all the time, and you guys had some things going to where we possibly might have a place. Yes, we discussed how Chris was doing. I told you he was doing better than he was at Grandma's, but he still wasn't getting over his cold. And it wasn't getting any worse, but he wasn't really getting any better either. He was kind of staying at a.
Hang on.
That's the one I want to draw right here. My uncle, who was in the military, put me on the ranch, carried up.
Okay. I talked to you one time at Grandma's. I think.
Yeah.
We sent the money to Grandma's, not to Spokane. Okay. And then I talked to you another time you was in Spokane. And I was going, what the hell, you know? It's because that made it harder to get to Spokane, Chris, the trailer, and back down to, I was asking you why you couldn't stay at Grandma's. You know, basically, but I was like not too happy about the fact that you moved back to Spokane of all places. You know, but anyway, that was neither near there. Anyway, now what happened when Mike came back? All of a sudden, Mike shows up.
Well, first of all,
Okay, what?
We found out Chris got very, very ill. Ended up in intensive care
Okay.
and almost died in my arms. He was in an oxygen tank.
Oh, that's when we took off and made it up to Weed
Yeah,
and had to turn around and go back because
Yeah.
the snow was so thick. It was bad.
yeah.
So you was up here with problems with Chris.
Yeah, I was up here with problems with Chris. He was in the hospital approximately 10 days, maybe 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know he got out either right before or right on your mom's birthday.
All right.
Brought him home. I had Christmas, everything. He was getting better. We thought everything was situated. And New Year's Eve, Mike shows up at my doorstep, or my mom's doorstep, I should say, where I was staying, and says that he needs to talk to me. He needed help finding Crystal, and he wanted me to go downtown and help him look for Crystal. So I left Chris with my brother, and we went down, drove around downtown for a half hour looking for Crystal. Couldn't find Crystal, went back to the house. Sat around there. Mike still said there was other things he wanted to talk to me about. We went for a drive, and that's when he started telling me how you and Connie were sleeping together, and you weren't gonna be coming back up. You said you weren't gonna be coming back up to Spokane. That basically that you were done with Chris and I, and you and Connie were gonna stay down there, and that you had booted him out of the trailer so that you guys could be alone.
Out of the truck.
Or out of the truck, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's what he told you?
Mhm.
Okay, when was he alone with your mother?
While I was getting Chris ready for bed, because Mom watched Chris while Mike and I went out.
You do what now?
Mom watched Chris while Mike and I went for the drive.
Right. And then?
And him and Mom were sitting in the living room talking. I could hear them talking, but I couldn't always hear what was being said.
Mm-hmm.
And then Well, I had asked Mike when we were out for the drive, why he didn't say anything earlier, and he said he was trying to figure out how to tell me without upsetting me, because he knew, you know, Chris had been real sick and so forth, and he didn't want to make things worse for me.
Mm-hmm.
So he hung around Spokane for a few days. Took me down to your mom's one day. Dropped me off so that her and Raj could see Christian.
Did he talk to you about moving into an apartment with him?
Yeah, I think there was something said about that. Well, it was basically I was trying to get out of mom's
Uh-huh.
because mom was driving me nuts.
Did you notice anything that would suggest that Mike wanted to be alone with Chris?
Oh, he used to like get down in the floor and play with Chris and stuff. We went to the store to get diapers one time,
Did he offer to babysit Chris?
and he goes, "Well, you can just leave him in the car and run in," you know,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't seem like really odd, you know, because it was winter time. But my brother came home from school, and my brother's like, "No, I'll just watch him."
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we just ran down to the store, got the diapers, and came back.
Did it seem to you that he was trying to get you away from your parent alone? Did it seem to you that he was trying to get alone with Chris?
He did. Like when, I don't know what it was. Maybe mother's intuition or whatever, but I did have a really weird feeling
Mm-hmm.
that something wasn't right. That for some reason he was trying to get Chris alone.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I just kind of also blew it off as me just being stressed out.
Okay, then you get a phone call from Mom.
Yeah, on the 7th of January.
What happened?
Well, actually, I'd gotten a call from Connie the night before saying she was back in town.
Mm-hmm.
And she really needed to talk to me. It was important.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave me the impression it was kind of like a life or death situation type thing. So I told her she could come over the next day. And then the following morning, I was waiting for her to show up, and your mom called and told me to have a seat, that she had something she needed to talk to me about, but that I needed not to overreact. So I was talking, I said, okay, I sat down, I said, okay, what's going on? And she goes, I just got a call from the hospital where Rick is, from one of the nurses. And I'm like, what's going on? And she goes, first of all, they don't know if the medications they put him on are causing him to hallucinate or what's going on. But she started telling me about what you had told the nurse about Mike kidnapping Chris and taking him down to California and selling him.
Mm-hmm.
And about that time, I'm talking with your mom, and Connie knocks on the door. And I told your mom Connie was at the door, And she goes, well, let me talk to her. Go ahead and put her on the phone. And I said, okay. So Connie comes in, and your mom and Connie talked, and of course all I could hear was what Connie was saying, but Connie verified that, yes, that was what Mike was up to. And, or at least that's what he had told her, that he had tried getting her to go along with it, and she had told him no, and that's why they started fighting.
Did she say what her portion of this plan was supposed to be?
She was supposed to get me separated from Chris, you know, like ask me to go to the store with her or something. We go in, leave Chris in the car, and then Mike was going to take off.
Mm-hmm. So this plan was hatched in Washington.
From what I understood, it was hatched before we even left Spokane.
No, I didn't know that.
It was right around the time that we kicked Crystal out.
How about the time that he saw that we had a kid?
Well,
Pretty much, huh?
yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I think that's why he...
okay. Then what did she say after that? After anything else with mom and...
Oh no, your mom,
Buddy?
that was pretty much all your mom and her talked about. And then I got back on the phone, and your mom's like, you know, and I said, well, he's supposed to come over today.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom's like, do you want me to come up there and sit with you? And I said, no, I think we'll be okay. And I said, I'll just lock the doors and not answer the doors until mom gets home. And I knew
Hold on, sis.
I knew my brother had a .22 pistol downstairs. So I went down, got the pistol out, and Connie and I had an argument over if Mike did show up and break into the house, who was going to shoot him. She wanted to be the one to shoot him because her being a juvenile, she didn't think they'd arrest her, and I said, you know, it doesn't matter as long as, you know, breaks into the house, it's self-defense. So, but anyway, that's what happened with that. And then that day, and then it was about 2 or 3 days later, a detective with the Spokane Police Department showed up at my house, or my mom's house, and notified me that Mike had been arrested he had been pulled over for a traffic violation, and they ran the car and found out the car was stolen out of California.
Probably the San Francisco Bay Area, if not Redwood City.
I believe it was
San Mateo County.
Yeah.
Okay, what did Connie say about what Mike said? Because you asked Mike. Did you ask her, did you tell her what Mike said about us?
Well, yeah, as soon as I got off the phone with your mom and stuff,
Yeah.
and
You had a .22 in your hand?
yeah, got calmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Connie, I asked Connie. I told her what Mike had said.
Mm-hmm.
And
What was her reaction?
She's like, no, that didn't happen. That ain't the way it was. She goes, Rick and I were sleeping in the truck. She goes, Mike and I had been fighting. Rick kicked Mike to the curb. And that was but she said that I guess even before you kicked Mike out, he had really, like the last 2 weeks, the three of you were together, he had been talking really heavy about splitting and coming up and splitting California and coming up and kidnapping Chris.
Okay.
Because he wasn't getting the money down there that he wanted for his drugs and stuff. And I do know when they arrested him, he had LSD in the back of in the trunk of the car.
Yeah. So was it part of this plan that Connie is supposed to sleep with me and he's supposed to turn me in?
I don't remember if she said anything about that. I just remember she was supposed to try and get me away from Chris so that Mike could take off with Chris.
And then maybe the plan changed when you and Chris were no longer involved in the picture.
Yeah.
That he might have evolved his plan, but you don't know about that, nor do I.
No.
Other than she turned to me and said, "Mike's behind all of this." Okay. So did she tell you that what Mike said was not true?
Yes.
About what?
That you guys were not having sex.
Okay.
You guys were not in love. She wasn't trying to steal you from me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
All right. Then the next question is
That she felt really bad because you guys both ended up getting arrested, and now, you know, you wouldn't be able to work and send money home to help me and Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was really upset.
Me and Chris.
Yeah.
We know who's important here, right? Chris and I, maybe? Oh, well. Okay. Did you have any other contact with her after that?
No, I only seen her that one time. Oh, no, I ran across some of her jewelry in with my stuff, and I took it up to her house.
Where was she living then?
On Lindeke.
Okay. With her mother?
Yeah.
How was things going at that point?
They didn't seem to be going too good. But I really didn't stick around long either.
Did you see her any time after that?
Not until about 4 years later.
And what happened?
Oh, she just happened to show up at my mom's house, which then by that time my grandparents had moved back into it because it was actually their house. And I was living with them, and that was after my daughter was born. So she just came up, knocked on the door. I answered the door. She said, "Hi, Tina." And I just kind of looked at her because I didn't recognize her.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kind of spent the day just kind of hanging out, talking, you know, catching up.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And she was upset about Chris?
She was really upset about Chris. She blamed herself for Chris being taken.
And?
I explained to her that it had very little to do with the case down in California, that the reason they took him was because of his medical, and they felt that I was neglecting his medical.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I ever really fully convinced her, but she did at least settle down and stop crying.
Alright. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just that everything I've said is true to the best of my knowledge or my memory, and I thought it was time, after reading some of those reports, falsified reports, that I felt it was time to set some things straight. Like the fact that I was not 15 when you and I got together. I was 16 and a half. At first, I do believe we told you Connie was 15.
This is Sergeant Rob Kelly's report, right here. Read line, read one sentence, comment.
Okay. Says on approximately 1/2/91 at approximately 1500 hours I spoke to Tina Lloyd by phone. Well, I did speak to him. Tina is the suspect Richard Boyd's girlfriend. Well, we had already been together for 2 years and had planned on getting married. We were just waiting for me to turn 18. I explained to Tina the reason for my call and obtained the following information. Christina May Lloyd, birth date 4/25/73, and North 6215 Belt, Spokane, Washington was my address, and my phone number at the time, or I should say my mom's phone number at the time, was 509-326-6989. For some reason that don't sound right, but it might be. Tina stated she was 16 and a half years old when she became romantically involved with Richard Boyd. No, I was closer to 17. I was 16 and a half when we met.
Right.
She said she was dating a friend of Richard's and was pregnant by him. No, I wasn't pregnant by Emil, which was the gentleman or the kid I was dating when you met me. She miscarried and the father ran off. I did miscarry, but Emil wasn't the dad. And Emil knew that. Richard stayed by her side and cared for her.
So did Emil.
Yep.
So who's running off?
Um,
How do you get the idea that somebody was running off? Not that it matters much, but
Emil had left. Remember, he went over for that one weekend to try and find his dad,
yeah.
but he came back.
Okay.
I think that's what he's talking about.
It's only what you told him,
Yeah,
supposedly.
supposedly. She said at first Richard was like a father to her, and then she fell in love with him. I never said you were like a dad to me. I said you were a friend and my boss because I was helping you and Ed do the landscaping. But yeah, she said she had a troubled childhood and had been sexually molested. Okay. She said she came on to Richard and pushed for a relationship. Yeah, I did.
I am not saying nothing.
She said she got pregnant and now they have a child named Chris. Okay, that's true. Tina stated Connie came into her life about 3 months ago. Connie went to school with Tina's little sister, who is 12 years old. Connie told Tina she was going to run away because she didn't like it at home. That was the first story I got out of her. The first night she was out at the house. Over the days after that, I found out why she didn't like it at home.
Why didn't she like it at home?
Because her mom's boyfriend was physically and sexually abusive to her and physically abusive to her mom.
Okay.
Tina said they used to take her little sister to work with them. Carrie never went to work with us. Sometimes I would swing in and pick her up after work when we would take her to go get something to eat or something. One day Connie also showed up. Well, we've already stated how we ended up with Connie. Connie wanted to work with them too. Yeah, Connie wanted us to give her a job and we told her no. That she was too young to be working, she should be in school. Tina remembers that on a few occasions Richard drove Connie to school with Tina's sister. You never took the girls to school.
Did you tell him that? So he's supposedly talking to you on the phone. He's talking to you on the phone. How did he get that information, more or less?
Only thing I can think of is because Helen had made that one comment in her one report that you had dropped Connie off at school at 7:30 in the morning.
So do you think that he's taken, this is after he's already read the reports, by the way. They got the reports from Washington. So he's taking some things from the reports and having you say them?
Well, yeah, because I wasn't too happy when he called.
Wait, did you say that to him?
No.
Okay, so state what you said and didn't say to him.
Okay.
Also.
Tina said there is no doubt that Richard knew how old Connie was. I said, eventually.
Mm-hmm.
You knew how old Connie was. But that was after we had taken her back to Helen the first time.
Right.
Was when you found out. The relationship between Tina and Connie became difficult. No more than a big sister, little sister type thing, you know.
And people confined in a small space on the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
Nothing abnormal though?
No.
Okay.
Tina said they allowed Connie to spend the night with them, and during the night, Connie climbed in to bed on Richard's side. Yes, that did happen, but the next morning, we had a talk with her, and I started sleeping on the outside so that if she had a nightmare or something and wanted to climb in bed, she could climb in bed and be next to me. Tina said when she woke up, she was extremely angry and was going to beat Connie up, but Richard stopped her. Yeah, I was angry, but I didn't threaten to beat her up, and you didn't have to stop me, so I just asked her what she thought she was doing. She told me she had nightmares sometimes and she felt safer climbing in bed with us, and so I said I'd sleep on the outside and that way she could climb in bed next to me.
Now this was after we moved into the trailer, the small little itty bitty trailer, and before Crystal and Mike came in.
Yeah, it was just
Right in between that point and that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Richard did take Connie home to her mother, but Tina did not go with them. That's true. That was when she called your mom's. Your mom came and got us, and you went back, called and talked to Connie's mom on the phone, and then you took Connie home.
The second time we went down there when she was calling us, I wouldn't go alone,
Yeah,
and you went with me, and I stayed in the vehicle. That was the second time. All right.
yeah. A few days later, Connie called her crying, saying she was going to run away again. The next thing Tina knew was Connie was at her home again.
That was when we was over in the snow.
Yeah, no,
When?
that
When was that?
yeah, that's what he's talking about. But Connie had called once or twice before that, wanting us to come see her, and we had went to see her that one time when Helen had offered us
Mm-hmm.
that she'd sign Connie over.
But we didn't
to
have a
us.
phone for her to call. She called Mom.
Yeah,
So when she showed up at the doorstep, what time was that doorstep? Was he saying that yours were dating him about? That would have to be the second time when I took her over to the VA.
yeah, that
It's
is
the
what
only
he's.
time she ever showed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tina said she talked with Connie, and Connie expressed an interest in Richard and said she was going to try and take his affection from her.
Did you tell that to Officer Raffaelli?
No,
You flat out remember not saying that.
no, because I remember him trying to bait me into saying something, because when I was telling him about, Connie sleeping in bed,
Uh-huh.
climbing in bed, he said, well, don't you think that's weird? And I said, no weirder than I'm 17, and when I was staying down at my grandma's, if I had a nightmare, I'd go climb in bed with her,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
So what's he writing that for?
He was like, well, do you think Connie was trying to get between you and Rick? Do you think that, she was, had an infatuation with Rick,
And what did you say?
I said, I didn't think so.
Okay.
That, if she would have had an infatuation with you, she would have been more insistent on sleeping next to you. She would have been more insistent on doing things with you, Connie used to like staying at the trailer while he'd go to work, and her and I would sit there and just hang out.
Right. Are you stating that he lied?
Yes.
Okay.
Tina told Richard of this and demanded Connie leave. That's not why I wanted Connie to leave. I was just tired of dealing with the hassle.
Uh-huh. Didn't you say that she'd leave when she was in the Dowells, at the Denny's in Dowells?
Yeah, but that was later on.
But before that, I do not remember you telling me Connie had to leave.
No, I didn't tell you she had to leave. I just said
Or
that.
asked me or anything.
Yeah, no, I just said that it was getting hard to deal with.
Well, we both said that.
Yeah. Richard was not for that and told Tina they were going to California.
Well, I think that is the actual time that we was at the Denny's in the Dowells. The only time that we ever had harsh words about it.
Yeah, maybe he is talking about that.
Yeah, but see, he's saying that you're telling him this. What do you remember telling him about that?
Just that we had an argument because the money was going too fast.
Okay. So, okay.
And I was trying to, get down to Grandma's with money left, and
Right.
it wasn't working.
Okay.
On their way to California, Tina demanded Connie leave since Richard was spending all their money on her and Mike. Okay, yeah, that's what he's talking. Richard told Tina that if he had to put Connie out, he would get out too. I don't remember.
Did you tell him that? That's what you're saying.
I don't remember ever telling him that.
Okay.
Tina said their relationship became strange. Well, our relationship became strange because we were traveling with three kids, you and I, in a small 8-foot trailer. Money was running out. Chris was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was stressed out, tired.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. That's why it became strange. Chris became ill and she decided to stay with her grandparents while the group continued to California. Chris was ill before we even left Spokane.
What is that? What you told him though?
No. I told him Chris was sick. And I know Mom told him that because I was sitting there one time when Mom talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
Tina said she received calls from Richard but has not heard from him since the first week of December. That was false because you knew Chris was in the hospital. You had come up, you started to come back up, made it as far as Oregon, and had to turn around and go back. And I talked to you after you got back to California.
Mm-hmm.
She said on New Year's Eve, Mike showed up at her house and told her of the sexual involvement between Richard and Connie. That's true. Tina said she didn't want to believe it, but knew it was true.
Would you elaborate on that particular point? Did you tell him that, number one?
No, I didn't want to believe it, but no, I did not tell him I thought it was true, too. He kept trying to he kept saying to me, well, if you guys had a relationship and this is how your relationship started out, how do you know what he did when you weren't around?
Mm-hmm.
You got somebody that was there telling you this, why don't you believe him?
Okay, he knew that Mike, did you tell him that Mike told you?
Yeah.
So he knew that Mike was up there telling you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, alright.
She said there was no doubt that Connie came on to Richard, but that Richard knew she was only 13 years old. Now, I may have made the comment that the only way it would have happened is if Connie came on to you. Just being facetious. He was really rude to me on the phone. First, he started out belittling me because he had been trying to get a hold of me and couldn't get a hold of me. And the reason he couldn't get a hold of me was because I was up at the ICU with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been leaving messages at Mom's for me to call him. Well, I wasn't coming home.
Right.
I mean, excuse me, my son was in ICU and he had had major surgery to reconstruct his urinary tract. I wasn't leaving him.
Mm-hmm.
Tina said she still loves Richard, but is upset with him because of what he did. Well, yeah, that's a fair statement. But I didn't mean what you did with Connie. I meant the whole situation. You know.
Leaving you alone with Chris.
Yeah. Leaving me to deal with all that without...
Is there any more?
No, that's it.
Okay. Now, when Connie told you, did Connie tell you not to believe Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Can you remember what she said?
She, to the best of my memory, it was, don't believe him. He's the one that's after Chris. He's just doing this to split you and Rick up and to get Rick in trouble. And, that it wasn't at all true. That you guys had never once had sex.
Mm-hmm.
So. And I asked her more than once.
Now then.
And that is also what she told me 4.5 years later.
4.5 years later, she said what?
That you guys never had sex.
Okay. Now, the question is that she arrived on the 7th at your house?
Yes.
She's there on the 7th. That's 7 days after I was arrested. At that point, was it important to contact somebody down there in San Mateo, such as a public defender, or maybe call Rafi Ali back up, or anything like that, to let him know a new development has transpired up here?
I don't know if I ever talked to him after that or not.
You didn't?
Um,
There was nothing mentioned anywhere
Yeah,
in anything of this information getting back.
no, I was so wrapped up in what was going on with Chris that.
And did what Mom and Raj say?
Well, your mom and Raj were dealing with the stuff that was going on with you, and they told Raj and I had talked, and Raj said that I needed to quit taking on so much
Right.
and stressing myself out because I was going to end up in the hospital if I didn't learn to relax a little bit.
Mhm.
You know, Chris was kind of out of the woods, we thought at that point,
Right.
and so it was more, just getting his strength back and making sure I was taking care of myself so when he did come home I would be able to take care of him.
Okay. So who won on who gets to shoot him if he comes through the door? Between you and her. You did? You're the one that had the gun? Gonna shoot his ass? You're not saying? Okay, never mind.
I plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth. Okay. Anything else you want to say?
No.
All right. All right, state your story.
Okay, this is the Spokane Public Health Building. This is where Rick and I came down to get tested for chlamydia when he came back from California, and both our tests were negative.